So we can hear you right now, so we'll just talk a little bit. So Joe, I mean, I guess while we're getting things going here, I guess just initially, just briefly, before we talk to some of your people there, just inform people a little bit about Newport News Shipbuilding's apprenticeship program. You know, just kind of the quick elevator speech on it.
Sure. The apprentice school part of Newport News Shipbuilding, a 130-year plus company, and we're getting ready next year to celebrate our 100-year anniversary of the apprentice school, which we're all very excited about. You know, tradition, you were talking about apprenticeships, how they've grown and developed, and that's really been the case here at Newport News. You know, from the traditional trades over the years, we've grown it. We've grown into other trades, advanced trades, and we're going to talk about metrology today as just one of those advanced crafts. But it's really advanced from being, you know, viewed as the blue-collar vocational, because not only do we build shipbuilders and build that craft, but we're also building the leaders of tomorrow. So that's what I think maybe sets us aside, and that's the value in apprenticeships, is that not only can you teach a craft, but you can also teach the skill sets of leadership within that craft and beyond that craft.
And I believe you have with you right now. You have Jessica. Is that right?
I have Jessica Dunlap with us, one of our graduates, and we also have Vince Warren, who is also a graduate of apprentice school, as myself, okay, and is the manager of crafts at the apprentice school.
Perfect. Let's start with Jessica here a little bit, if you can put her on there. So, sure. Jessica, you are an apprenticeship graduate. What got you interested in, I guess, metrology of all things? I mean, that was what your apprenticeship was in, right? Metrology?
Correct, yeah. It kind of happened in a weird way, but I came into the apprenticeship program where they offer several type of trade apprenticeships. So I came in as one of our electricians, basically, and started going through the apprentice school, and then I had to make a decision whether I want to stay with that type of application trade or maybe go into what we call one of our advanced trades, where we there's all different types of positions within that. But metrology I heard about, and it was so different from any of the others. It wasn't, you know, just someone doing some planning or something like that. It was like going out into the field and able to use instruments, and then also able to use my technical background and experience and do this thing called measurement on the stuff that we build here. And it was so appealing. It was something very out of the ordinary. So I really kind of took the leap and went into it, not exactly understanding everything, but they set you up here to kind of train and learn the theory of metrology, and then you learn how to apply it. You learn how to use the instruments. You learn how to use the software and do the analysis and all that kind of stuff. So they trained me in everything, and I ended up loving it and really grasping it and running with it. So.
And Jessica, do I understand that you already had a degree before you went into the apprenticeship program? Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, I had a bachelor's before, so like you guys were talking about, college is expensive. So, you know, I myself have student loans to pay off and whatnot, and I didn't even know about metrology back at that time when I had been in college. But the good part about it was I wanted to kind of go back to school. So the apprentice school has its own curriculum of classes here. And then they also have specialized craft classes that you learn for your trade. So it's kind of you get a combination of different things, but at the apprentice school I took things like I was used to taking in my own college, like math and physics and things like that. And as I advanced through the apprentice school, I was actually able to get an associate's degree, and they do have other types of degree programs as well. So I went to one of our local community colleges that they partner with and got an additional associate's degree. But then I also was trained in all the metrology classes too. So it was a really great combination of, hey, let me build upon my technical degree from the past, and then let me develop that into something else, into this metrology field.
And Vince, what about you? How did you get into the apprenticeship program? What was your background?
Well, matter of fact, I just told this story today to some folks. The summer of my 9th grade year, going into 10th grade, I woke up one morning and there was a pair of work boots at the end of my bed, and I asked my father, I said, "What are those for?" He said, "I'm about to show you." And so he was a plumber for 57 years. And I learned a great deal from him about the hands-on aspect and the skills piece with plumbing. Found out that I liked it. I was pretty good in school. My parents couldn't afford to send me to college. I had a friend who was a millwright in the program here at the apprentice school, and he tapped me on the shoulder. He was a year ahead of me in school. And so he tapped me on the shoulder and said, you ought to consider this program, and I applied. And I was accepted as a pipe fitter, and I graduated from that program in '87. So, and I worked off and on for the school beyond my apprenticeship, but I was a general foreman down in our pipe shops for a little while and worked some ship repair and some other things before I actually became a manager at the school. So.
And what? Tell us a little bit about. Sure, Vince. Let's keep with you here a little bit. Tell us a little bit what it's like going through an apprenticeship program. I mean, are you working at the same time? Is it just schoolwork, or how does that pan out as you're trying to survive at the same time you're going to apprenticeships?
Yeah. Well, it's actually a nice blend because the way our program is structured, you attend class a portion of your 40-hour week. Typically, it's a 2-day-a-week in the classroom, or a portion of those days in the classroom, and 3 days you're on the job. So a good part of that is when you're learning some of the things, say like in geometry and trigonometry, you end up as a pipe fitter. I was in the term for geometry and trigonometry, and I could go down to the waterfront the next day and I was bending pipe for submarines. So everything from roll angles to bend angles, it's all geometry and trigonometry. So that kind of learning with a purpose, and applying it in real time was it resonated with me, and it does with a lot of the folks that come here. When students ask in high school now, why am I taking this math class? You're basically, putting it to work in real time.
That's
So.
and actually, if I can talk to Joe a little bit here. So, Joe, that's interesting. A lot of people, I mean, myself included, you think of apprenticeship programs and you think of somebody learning, I don't know, a craft. It's kind of mechanical, right? I mean, it's like, here's how you physically do something, right? But what Vince is saying is like, no, you had to learn, trigonometry and algebra and all that stuff. So an apprenticeship program is really, in some sense, not a whole lot different than higher education, college, except it's focused. Would that be a good way to describe it?
That's a great way to describe it. We have a little saying here at the apprentice school. We build 3 kinds of ships: craftsmanship, leadership, and scholarship. and we really combine all 3 of those together. To your point, Dirk, it's taking the academic, it's taking the practical, it's applying it, it's mind, hand, and heart. And taking that down to what is often very unique, very specialized skill sets that you just don't go outside and find. So that drove us to have the apprenticeship too. Building ships is complex, and it requires a lot of different skill sets that you have to develop, and you develop those over time. And the apprenticeship allows that condensation, if you will, of knowledge and combination of academics so that we can develop people faster.
And Jessica, when you were going through the program, or maybe Joe can address this as well, were you the only female? I mean, is it unusual to have females in these apprenticeship programs? I mean, what was that about?
Maybe not as much now, but I think that just in my own classes at the apprentice school and whatnot, there is definitely a lesser percentage that I saw of women. So I felt kind of just empowered myself, like, I'm here, and the shipyard is it's been a history of men working at the shipyard, and then I'm sure women have come in over time, to work there too, but that just made me feel like, I got to work hard and pull my own weight, as a woman, but I could also do really well at some of the jobs that are offered here too. So it was kind of interesting to come into an environment that I hadn't kind of worked at before. I mean, the shipyard is a very unique place, and it does have a strong history in many technical trades, which women hadn't really been associated with, but now I think they are more so. And then especially in metrology in our department, I was I would say one of a handful of women in our department too. So it has been like a different experience, but also empowering that I can do this work. I can provide my technical experience, and I can learn this stuff just as well, basically.
And Joe, I know that one of your goals as chair of the education committee at the Coordinate Metrology Society, the CMS, is kind of get the word out to junior colleges and companies that an apprenticeship program is something that they can start. It's not an easy task, but it's also not an impossible task. Can you kind of address that a little bit?
Yeah, that's correct. It doesn't matter whether you're a Fortune 500 company or a small business. Apprenticeships fit. Each state has their own rules and own requirements, but you can go after apprenticeships, and often there's workforce development money out there. So the intent of the education committee is really educate the industry and help the industry find that way to apprenticeships, whether it be a small organization in Connecticut or it be a larger group in South Carolina. We truly believe that the apprenticeship has a place for the metrology industry, because the metrology industry has changed significantly over the last 10 years. And while we're moving forward with technology, I think we got to step back a little bit and understand, where's the workforce of tomorrow coming from? Is this a career by chance, or is this a career by choice?
Right. Also, I wanted to throw this out to, I guess this question actually would be for you, Joe. So, is it a requirement for most apprenticeship programs? I don't know the answer to this, that's why I'm asking it. That once an apprentice, somebody has graduated from an apprenticeship program, are they required to work at the company for a certain amount of time in order to kind of pay back the investment? Or could somebody actually go through an apprenticeship program and say, hey, thanks for the paid training, guys, so long?
That's a great question, and our apprenticeship is actually set up that way. There is no commitment. You do not have to stay. I think we retain about 83%, 84% stay with the company. So we have a pretty good track record, but there is no requirement. And often people say, well, why do you do that? Because we want this to be, again, a career of choice, and we want this to be a place that you want to work. Oftentimes people leave and then they come back. As far as other apprenticeships, I'm not familiar with how the other apprenticeships work. Some companies may have a commitment that they do, but we do not, and we've chosen to stay that way because it really works best for us.
Okay. Yeah, Mike Petters, our head guy at HII here, he's always told us on his watch, any programs that we develop and that we run at the school will never have a service commitment, because to Joe's point, if we can't provide a company that has opportunity, is the place they want to work, it's shame on us and not shame on them.
Right, yeah. It's good point. Yeah, if you don't want to stay with the company, then there's something wrong here. Yeah.
You're competing, absolutely. The company's competing for employees as anything else. Yeah, great stuff there. All right, well, thanks, guys. Thanks everybody, Joe and Jessica and Vince, for joining us today on our virtual Test and Measurement Expo on Manufacturing Day. We appreciate you guys joining us today.
Thanks for having us. Sorry we didn't get the other part to work. You didn't get to see pretty faces, but we got to see yours, so look forward to talking to you again soon.
Right. And I should say that if people do have questions about apprenticeships, one of the resources is the Coordinate Metrology Society. Yes. Is that fair to say, Joe?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Thank you.